Hello, everyone. Ian McMillan here from Fansided today. Joining me on behalf of Courtyard by Marriott is former NFL defensive end, Super Bowl 48 champion with the Seattle Seahawks, Cliff Avril. I want to start by asking you, Cliff, and thank you for joining me today, about one of my favorite clips of yours. And I want to know if you remember it and what you do remember from it. It wasn't really an impactful play, but I think it happened. I think it was 20.
Every play is an impactful play, man.
That's true. Well, this actually happened after the play in a sense. So I think it happened 2017. It was you guys were playing against the Rams. You're on the Seahawks at this point, and Johnny Hekker cheap shot you, the punter, after kicking it. And then the next time he punted it, you went up to him and you just gave him a little head fake there, and he just fell on the ground and turtled up. Do you remember that play?
Yes. How could you forget it? I mean, first off, there's never been a time in my football career where a punter's just cheap shotted me. Like, there's never.
It's a brave move.
And then I just remember, it was a safe play, basically meaning you just make sure he punts it. We're going to fair catch it. Defense runs off on the field. And I'm kind of just jogging back by myself. And out of nowhere, it just hits me from behind. And, yeah, no, you're going to pay for that, especially you're a punter. Like, it's punter than quarterback. Yeah, y'all two aren't the hardest people on the field right now.
Right, yeah. Obviously, you were a big member of the Legion of Boom for a number of years. I want to ask you about this year's version of the NFL and this year's defenses, or maybe even one over the past couple of years. Has there been a defense that has reminded you at all of the Legion of Boom maybe this year, or was the Legion of Boom just something so unique that we might not ever see a defense like that again in the NFL?
Well, I think what made us special, honestly, is not the fact that we just did it for 1 year. I think it's the fact that we were number one defense for 3 or 4 years. And consistency is the hardest thing to do in the NFL. That's what separates great players from good players. That's what separates good teams from great teams, is the consistency. So I think time will tell with some of these other great defenses that are out there right now. But I think that's what kind of separates us a little bit is just the fact that we were able to do it for, a few years.
Yeah, that is a great point. You played a huge role in Super Bowl 48 in your guys' Super Bowl win. One of the more underrated roles in that game, I think. But what I want to actually ask you about specifically about that Super Bowl is halftime. You guys were up 22-0 at halftime. What was the vibe in the locker room at halftime? Was there any level whatsoever of, oh, we got this? Was there any celebration whatsoever at halftime? Or were you guys just locked in and getting ready for the second half? Because 22-0, I know myself watching it, I was like, oh, this game's over at this point.
No, we didn't take it lightly. First off, the halftime for a Super Bowl is completely different from halftime of a normal game because of course they have the halftime show, so it's a little bit longer. So I think that was the biggest difference. But all of us were locked in, and I kept reminding guys like, "Hey, that's Peyton Manning over there." Like at the time, they got this high flying offense. They had the best offense, from a points and yardage perspective. So you couldn't take them lightly. But as soon as that kickoff happened, when Percy Harvin, the first play in the second half, Percy Harvin takes it to the house. That's kind of when it was like, okay, this thing might actually be over with. Now it's time to kind of pat your stats a little bit and try to get after the quarterback.
That was going to be my next question, was when you thought it might have been over. That's obviously a great answer. That is interesting. The reason why I asked about halftime specifically, Cliff, I don't know if you can see my background. I'm a Falcons fan. So there was rumors that came out about what happened at halftime in our locker room during their Super Bowl. So I wanted to see if that was common or if the way to close out a Super Bowl in the second half is to maybe not celebrate at halftime. So that's good to know.
You definitely don't want to celebrate at halftime, but also I think that just boils down to leadership on the team too, right? If you have a bunch of young players, it's easy to kind of go in that direction. But if you have a bunch of veterans, guys that kind of understand that, it takes 4 quarters, that was always our mantra anyways. You don't win the game in the first quarter, second quarter, or third quarter, you win it in the fourth quarter. So you don't get in those types of situations where it's halftime and you're up big and thinking you got this game. It's the NFL. Those guys on the other side are pretty good too, and they can come back as well.
Yes, have we seen now, even in the Super Bowl, big comebacks can happen, unfortunately for me. I want to talk to you about if the Legion of Boom exists in the NFL today, this year. Because there is a play that has been happening throughout the NFL last year and this year that seems to be the hot topic, and that is the tush push or the brotherly shove. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles run a quarterback sneak, and it seems like nobody can stop it. I think if there's one defense that could have stopped it, it's the Legion of Boom. Am I right? Could you guys stop the famous tush push if you guys were in the NFL today?
I think it's tough. It's actually unfair because there's no other, like on defense, you can't ever push a defensive lineman or anything like
Right.
that, you know? I think we would win more than the majority, but that's just an extremely hard play. We're talking about, it's already 600 pounds of offensive linemen. Then you put another, 250-pound guy behind them to kind of push the pile over. It just makes it difficult. But I do think, we probably stop more than the average, but it'd be hard to stop for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think I actually heard your former teammate Richard Sherman say exactly that it's illegal for defensive players to push. Why can offensive guys do it? So do you think the tush push should be made illegal for offenses to do?
It's fantasy football. It's high scoring offense. Like that's the wow factor. So they'll never change it per se. They might make it a little bit of change to it, but the fact that it's for the offense to be able to keep moving down the field. I can see them kind of keeping it there for a few more years.
I want to ask you about a couple of your former teammates. There's one that I'm sure you get asked about quite often, and that is Russell Wilson. But Russell Wilson might be one of the guys who's received the most flack of NFL players over the past couple of years. But you are one guy that has come out on record defending him. Why do you think Russell Wilson has been so misunderstood, especially over the past couple of years?
Well, I think early on in his career, he was misunderstood because people expected him to be a certain way. When you have a team like what we had with all the different leaderships, whether you talk about Michael Bennett, Cam Chancellor, Marshawn, all these different guys, he didn't necessarily have to be vocal. And most quarterbacks, they expect you to be vocal. So that was one part of it. And then two, I just don't think it's fair because the man, like, he's really good at football. Like, he's been great at football. And for all the backlash and different things that he receives, it's only because he's different, right? And when I say he's different, he kind of goes by the beat of his own drum. He kind of does his own thing, which is perfectly fine. Since I've been playing football from high school all the way through the pros, the quarterbacks have always gotten treated differently. I don't care if I was the best player on the team, the quarterback got treated differently, right? So I don't know why anybody would expect anything different. This is the professional football league, and quarterbacks are going to get treated differently. So I don't know why it's a big deal that he might have gotten treated differently from other quarterbacks.
Do you think he can still find success in Denver with the Broncos? Because I actually think this year he's actually played fairly well. I think he's been playing a lot better than he did last year, but people still don't want to give him the credit for that. Does he have enough juice here to kind of get this Broncos team going, you think? Is he the type of quarterback that can even, you mentioned earlier, he kind of does his own thing. Does he have the ability to kind of get his teammates to rally around him?
I do think he has the ability to rally the guys. But football is the ultimate team sport. I know we only pay attention to quarterbacks, but it's the ultimate team sport. Their defense has to play better too, right? Their defense has to do things as well. So I don't care how great you are. If your defense is giving up 70 points, it's pretty hard to match that, right? So yes. I just think that it's a team sport. I do think guys can get around them, but it's also personnel and making sure that you have the right guys making the right plays or doing the right things to make the right plays.
Now, the other former teammate that I want to ask you about is Frank Clark, who I don't know if you've saw this. He has officially re-signed back with the Seattle Seahawks. What are your thoughts on him rejoining Seattle?
I think it's great. This is where it started for him. This is where Frank made a name for himself. So I'm excited for him. I'm actually looking forward to seeing him at some point in the next few days. I think this would be a good restart for him just in general. And the Seahawks are down some pass rushers, so him coming in, I think, will be big for him. And then he also knows how to win. This man's been in 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them. Like, he knows what championship look like. So I think it's going to be good for the team.
Speaking of Super Bowls, speaking of the Seahawks, they're actually the team I think that has impressed me the most in the NFC so far this season. A lot of people had some questions if they could replicate the success from last year, and I actually think they even look better this year. Do you agree? Do you think the Seahawks team should be considered a legitimate Super Bowl contender with the other top teams in the NFC, like the Eagles, like the 49ers?
Well, it's very early in the season, right? I mean, I think we're at week 7, I believe. So do I think they have potential to do so? Yes, they have some young, thirsty playmakers out there on defense. They're making some big plays. The pass rush is getting after it. Gino's still doing his thing. He's had a couple little interceptions here and there, but that comes with the game. I think collectively they had a really, really good team. But this thing is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? And the next few months or the next couple of months actually will kind of dictate and see where they go. If they can stay healthy, though, I think the sky's the limit for this organization, this team.
Now, I want to get some inside tips about Pete Carroll specifically, and I'm not going to ask you about his coaching style or his game plan, but I just want to know, and this is something I've always wondered watching him on the sideline, how does he act so young and look so young and have so much energy at 72 years old? Is he doing something secret in the locker room there? What's going on with Pete Carroll?
Listen, I've been asking the same question since I met him 10 years ago. I joke with him every time I see him. He's like, "Hey, coach, what are you on? Like, I need to get on that now. Like, I don't want to wait till I'm 65 to get on this." But he's always excited. I think it's more of a mental thing. He understands that if he comes with the energy every day, if he has the, I'm going to say happy-go-lucky, for lack of better words, energy every single day, it's contagious. Everybody will feel that. The coaches will feel that. The players will feel that, and that's how you get the best out of people. So I think that's why he does that. But it's a genuine thing, though. Like, in 10 years, I've yet to see this man have a bad day.
Yeah, and I think he's really proved just how good of a coach he is. Obviously, when he was the head coach at Legion of Boom, you guys won their Super Bowl. There's no doubt there. But then last year, people were projecting the Seahawks team to be the worst team in the NFL, and then he led them all the way to the playoffs. So is there something different you think he's done this past couple of years with a completely different team, or is this just a sign of just how good of a coach he is and how he can rally guys around him?
I think he is awesome in the sense of how he's able to rally guys, but honestly, the last two draft classes have been really good. Those young players have been making some plays. They got some great leaders in Bobby Wagner on the defensive side of the ball. Everybody respects him, right? So everybody kind of rallies behind him as well. So I think they just collectively have a really, really good team. They drafted really well, and these guys are thirsty and they're hungry and they want to make a name for themselves.
Perfect. Cliff, tell me about your partnership with Courtyard by Marriott.
Oh, I'm excited to be here. Actually, I'm in one of the rooms right now.
Yeah, looks great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and it's the ultimate Seahawk fan room, where Courtyard by Marriott, their official hotel of the NFL, they're giving an exclusive look at obviously this room right here, and I think it's pretty cool. I've actually been walking around doing some different things in the room, and if you're a fan of the Seattle Seahawks, it's again something you want to be a part of. And fans can actually get this opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as a guest at one of the NFL courtyards. They just need to go to courtyard.com, and I think they'll be excited. But this partnership has been amazing. They have some really cool stuff going on, and if you can obviously see what's going on behind me, it's pretty dope.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Cliff. I appreciate you taking the time today. Take care and best of luck to your Seahawks the rest of the way.
Yes, thank you, and look forward to speaking to you soon.